Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are two retired New York City police detectives with over 20 years of law enforcement between the two of us, actively together over 45 years. Thank you so much for joining. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon. And look, he's on American soil. Ed Wallace, he's back. Hey, Ed, we're so happy that you're back home from Iraq. Thank you for joining us on Labor Day weekend on a Monday. How's everything going, Ed? How you feeling?
Good. I got over the jet lag. It took a couple days, but I'm feeling good. I'm feeling happy to be home. As I said in the chat earlier, my dog Kara flipped out when I came home and jumped all over me, and that's when I realized that nobody cut her nails in the last 3 weeks that I was away. And so I knew I had a honey-do list waiting for me.
Oh, there you go, Ed. Well, listen, it's the life that we lead. Ed Wallace and I, we have similar spouses. We do what we got to do, and we just plow ahead. We plow ahead. Hey, listen, so we're going to be talking today about Kiely Rodni and the Adventures with Purpose. Doug Bishop, and we have a really special guest, Paul Reynolds. He's joining us. He's a retired NYPD executive from the Harbor and Scuba team. He is going to join us to talk about the recovery of Kiely Rodni, how Adventures with Purpose did this, how we're going to have a real conversation, how did the police miss her? That's a sticking point that we all have. And we're all supporters of local, state, and federal law enforcement across the country. Without them, we'll have anarchy. You need our law enforcement. We need to get around them. But when there's a mistake that happens, we need to talk about it. We need to bring it to the forefront. But I want to say quickly on behalf of Ed Wallace and Crime Time with DutyRon, and Ed, we have to give thanks and praise to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, the subscribers, and all of the great folks who positively engage. The men and women who engage us with great questions and conversation in the live chat and afterwards on our social media in the comment sections. Ed and I and our guests, for that matter, we love and appreciate the back and forth, because when we get questioned and we get good ones, it makes us think about stuff. So it's always good, right, Ed?
Oh, yeah. I love to be challenged. I love to think every day's a learning day. So, again, nobody knows it all. So when you get a challenge with a good question and, you don't give an answer just to give an answer. If you don't know the answer, you tell them you don't know the answer, and I'll get back to you, and you go find out the answer.
Yep. Let's listen to just a little bit of Captain Sam Brown. Now, I know this is old footage, but this is right after Adventures with Purpose makes the recovery. I'm going to play this, and the reason I'm playing this is it's going to set up our guest. It's our retired NYPD executive who's going to come on. He's a fellow brother in blue, and before we bring him on, I want to set this up because this is going to lead into the questions that we have for him. And then when Doug Bishop joins us, which will, for those of you who are here to hear Adventures with Purpose and Doug Bishop, he's going to be coming on in the second half hour. So make sure you stay here, make sure you hang out and listen to what we're going to be talking about, because everything that we speak about here in the beginning is going to come full circle and go right into our conversation with Doug. So let's play this real quick, and then we'll bring on Paul. Oh, that was the wrong button. Where's Josh when we need him? All right, here we go. Here we go.
He had reached out and requested from within our unified command, but as everybody's reading online and seeing all the information that was coming out, and we realized that there was an interest from Adventures with Purpose, we did link up that group with Sergeant Mike Powers with the Placer County Sheriff's Office. They had lots of communication as they were going to be traveling to this area, and then a lot of detailed information that was shared that wasn't necessarily out to the public yet, that hopefully was of assistance to helping them locate the area to go to.
You said the car was found in the area where you've been searching since the beginning. What did AWP have that maybe you guys didn't have, or why?
All right, I'm going to stop it there. There's 1,300 or more people here in the chat. The reporter asked him, you guys have been searching, and you were searching the area that Adventures with Purpose, he referred to him as AWP. You're searching the area that AWP went in and found her at. Why and how did you guys miss it? So let's listen to this, and then we'll bring on our guest on.
Why was that missed in the initial search?
Yeah, I think that's locate the area to go to.
You said the car was found in the area where you've been searching since the beginning. What did AWP have that maybe you guys didn't have, or why was that missed in the initial search?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That's one that everybody's going to have, right? Is how did we not find it when we were searching? The lake was extensively searched with side sonar, with an ROV. We had divers, we had swimmers. I think that's part of what we're going to have to go back to do and debrief. You know, when peace officers are out in the field and volunteers and searchers, it doesn't mean that they're experts in the field, right? These are sometimes ancillary duties, and we're calling from other agencies to try to jump in. And tracking underwater is an extremely difficult thing to do. So I think part of our debrief on any of these situations is how do we figure out to improve our services, work on our resources and the way that we use them. A lot of this equipment is high end, very expensive, and you really need to have a lot of practice and expertise. And I think that's where a group like Adventures with Purpose is able to focus and practice those skills and really hone them. And so we're appreciative that they were able to come out and locate it. I also don't want to take away.
So I want to just say right there off the bat, Ed, I like what I heard there. I like that he admitted that some of the technology might have been ahead of them. He didn't say that was the case, but he said we have room for improvement here. Any thoughts on that, Ed, before we bring in Paul?
No, I mean, he was straightforward, telling the truth that, look, these are ancillary duties for this particular law enforcement jurisdiction, and they have to go out and tap into other resources, mutual aid agreements, and so forth. And these people don't do this 24/7, 365.
Right.
Okay, there are units like our NYPD, Scuba and Harbor. They do this. That's their job, 24/7, 365.
Right.
They're dedicated to it. Now you have, Adventures with Purpose, and that's what they do on a voluntary basis, 24/7, 365. And so when you do something to that extent, your expertise will increase tremendously. And the more that you do it, the better you become at it.
Yeah, it's you hone your skills, and the more you practice, the better you get at it. Adventures with Purpose is second to none. They've proven themselves. Listen, 23 cold cases recovered. Those are 23 families who have answers thanks to those men and women. And I always say Doug and Jared and all of the Nick and the whole team, right? They said they were out there with 6 guys. There's always a good woman behind those good men. And I keep saying it, and I don't say it for brownie points, but my wife is watching. But I say it because it's true. These guys are family men. You heard Doug say, I have a 16-year-old daughter. That broke my heart when I heard that guy say that. So at the end of the day, these are human beings, folks. These aren't machines. And we aren't, as NYPD, retired, and local, state, and federal law enforcement, they're all family people for the most part. Ed, you want to introduce our guest? Paul, I'll let you do the intro.
Okay, so we're bringing in Paul. Paul is a retired sergeant. Paul's career started, patrol like everybody else, and then he went to narcotics as an undercover. From there, he became a squad detective, then a squad sergeant, and from there, he went on to a Harbor and Scuba, and finally, he was commanding officer of the Scuba unit. So, Sergeant Paul, retired Sergeant Paul, come on in.
Welcome in, Paul. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining.
Nice to meet you guys both.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
So, Paul, let's just jump right into it. We have over 1,600 people live watching us. You heard the captain here talk about response. He took responsibility. He said, hey, he got asked the tough questions. That's not an easy press conference to hold. Any of your thoughts on what we just played there?
Well, like what the captain said, it's an extremely difficult environment to conduct a search. It's not like you're out in, on the ground searching the area. You have visibility issues. I know in a lake you really don't have current, but you have temperature. There are a whole host of issues that come into play when you're searching for a car or a body or a gun or a knife, whatever it may be.
Right.
So if you want me to go into how we would do it, like how we normally do an investigation looking for a car in the water, I can let you know.
I'd like you to let the audience know, because there's a lot of people watching. When we talk about you were the commanding officer towards the back end of your career in the Harbor/Scuba team. can you talk to the folks who are joining from the other side of the country or the other side of, the United States or the other side of the world? We have a worldwide audience. Let them know what the NYPD Scuba / the Harbor / Scuba team, what they did, how many personnel you had, what kind of budget you had. Just give a little bit of an overview, if you don't mind, Paul.
Sure. So the Scuba team was an elite unit, not to brag, but it's pretty much the pinnacle of my career. So we had about 35 guys on the team. It was a 24/7 job. 4 teams worked in 12-hour tours to cover 365 days a year. We did all the evidence searches for the city in any waterborne area there is. We also did all of the rescues. So basically how it would work is I would have 2 divers assigned to ASC rescue at Floyd Bennett Field. Those divers were there ready for when the helicopter is launched. So for instance, if somebody was drowning in Coney Island, somebody dials 911, ASC rescue is launched. The divers have to be able to, they have to be so familiar with their gear, they have to be able to suit up extremely quickly. So the helicopter could be on scene in as little as 2 minutes.
Right.
But they could be anywhere in the city in 8. And when they arrive at that scene, quite often they're the first rescue team that's on the scene. They would deploy out of the helicopter, just basically jump out of the helicopter into the water and start conducting a search, or rescue the victim and then hoist the victim onto the helicopter. The helicopter was backed up by the harbor unit and the scuba team on boats. We had various different sizes, different speeds. So you had between 3 to 5 divers on a boat and 2 divers at ASC Rescue. ASC Rescue was maintained 24/7, 365 days a year. So was the boat. So on any given day, we would do rescues or evidence searches for guns that are thrown in the water or knives that are thrown in the water. And we had systematic searches that we would use to conduct these searches and methods.
Wow.
We would also use technology. We'd use sonar. We would use side scan sonar. We'd use a Ditson. It's a headset that's kind of like night vision goggles that you would wear underwater. Basically gives sight to the blind.
Wow.
It looks like a sonogram. That's
Right.
what it looks like underwater.
Okay. Impressive. And you're looking at a city that serves over 10 million people, right? So water, Manhattan is an island surrounded by water, and you got water in Staten Island, you got water in the Queens side, almost every borough we have water. So it's, Ed, you're muted. Ed, you're muted.
My dog was barking, so I muted it. So we're made of 3 islands and a peninsula. We're surrounded by water, and whether it's the river, East River, or Hudson River, in the New York Harbor, Long Island Sound, it's all water.
Paul, I'm going to go ahead and ask you. I'm just going to cut through to the chase. What's your thoughts on what Adventures with Purpose was able to do here?
Those guys are fantastic. Honestly, they do God's work. I've seen them before this interview a couple times, and it's inspiring. It's inspiring what they do, and I would have no problem helping them at any given time if they ever needed any assistance. And I'm sure all the guys on my team would do the same.
It's funny you said that, and it's amazing that you just said it again here. You said that when we were speaking privately. You said, if I wasn't working actively and I had the time, I would help these guys.
That's right. That's right. Without question.
I have Doug Bishop. He was supposed to come in on the second half, but I can't let him sit there any longer because he came in early. He told me he was going to come in at 5 o'clock our time. So he came in early. I don't want him to sit there just in case he's got family stuff to do. So I'd like to add Doug from Adventures with Purpose in. If he gives me the thumbs up, I'll add him right in if he's ready. All right. Doug is here from Adventures with Purpose. Doug, thank you for taking out your time. I know you were supposed to come a little bit later, but you're here. Thank you, brother. Thank you for everything that you do. We are so honored that you're here on Crime Time with DutyRon.
Hey, you're very welcome, and good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bishop. May I call you Doug?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Ed, Paul, I'll let you guys take it first. I mean, listen, we're going to play the clip of, Doug with his partner, Nick. Hey, Doug, I had one question before I go into playing this clip, and I know you don't mind we play it because we spoke about it earlier. Nick, was that in fact his first recovery of human remains, or was this not his first go around?
This was his first solved case with us. So
Okay.
technically, yes. I can say that Nick has a very extensive background in the Army as well, 11 years sergeant. So, it's something that everybody processes in their own way. He's doing great. That was definitely a very passionate moment for Nick, and I think it showed on camera.
Yeah, we saw a lot of emotion coming from him, and that was the first thing that Ed and I spoke about. And I said it on my very first reaction to it. I said, that is not an easy thing to do. And us, from the law enforcement side, we see lots of human remains. We see them in lots of different situations and conditions. That is not an easy pill to swallow, that's for sure. So
No. You hope for the best, but prepare yourself for the worst.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to play the dive, if you guys don't mind. I'd like to just fast forward it. I mean, they do a lot of talking here about spotting what they see on the sonar. I want to play it probably right from here, if you don't mind, and then we'll do a breakdown quickly of what Nick did, how you guys broke yourselves up, and where you guys went. One went to one side, one went to the other. But I'd like to hear it in your your own words, if you don't mind, Doug. I know you probably told the story quite a bit, but I think it's important for the listening audience, for everyone to know how you guys went at this and why you went at it the way you went at it. And we'll get into that after we listen to this.
So we're going to go right off this point. If they scanned it, how would they miss that? So I'm assuming it's nothing because they did have dive teams, but I don't want to be the guy that just says, oh, it's nothing because it doesn't look like a car.
Hey, Doug, Devin over here. We may have something. It's hard to tell.
Live scope doesn't work, so it's hard to verify, but we're definitely giving you a solid cast shadow.
Where are you at?
It's to, I sent the coordinates to Carson, but we're on is this the eastern part of the shore? I know. We're by the other boat ramp, not the one that you guys went towards, but the one at the top of the lake.
We're going to head over here to the other side of the reservoir where there are lots of drive lanes down to the water's edge where people have cookouts, get-togethers, parties, family gatherings. This is a prime location where Kiely's vehicle could have made it into the reservoir. Is that what you just saw?
Yeah. So it's just a big shadow there. You see that?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense though. It's only 10 feet of water. We definitely have something man-made. Big.
It's probably nothing, but it was a big shadow.
It's something.
Isn't that weird? I mean, it's just big.
It's definitely something directly under us right now. What is that, Carson? Is that a boat? Or is that an SUV? Whatever it is, it has buildup on it. Could be a car. More in the shape of a boat. And I'm seeing similarities that show buildup, which we shouldn't have buildup on this car. It's only been 2 weeks.
It looked like an upside down sunken boat.
Possibly. Could be a boat. It's something though. I believe it's a car. And I have to be quiet because I don't want to alarm the entire campground right now. This is an ongoing investigation. Man, we're getting some funny imaging on this, which is indicative of a newer vehicle. There it is. See that? What is that? That's a wheel. See the wheel?
I'm going to stop it there because I don't see a wheel, but I'm sure that Doug sees the wheel. And I'm getting it on DutyRon.com like crazy, and I don't need. I know everybody in the chat is going to say it too, but we're going to ask Doug about this part because here I don't see the wheel. But I'm not a professional. I don't know about this, so we're gonna ask him about that part.
Is it a wheel? Is it a boat? Looks like a wheel, man. Look at that. Look at that. That's a wheel. That's a wheel, dude. We have a wheel. It's tall, whatever it is. Got it. Got it. We got a car.
Fast forwarding to the dive part.
This is absolutely a crime scene. It's an active investigation. Our job is to be here to find the where, which we have done. Now we need to assess it appropriately. Full assessment, condition of the vehicle, windows up or down. Do not remove license plate like we normally do.
Copy that. I'm going to start my descent. Confirm. I see the vehicle and the license plate. We have just found Kiely's vehicle. Over.
10-4. Do a full assessment, methodically, slowly. Make sure you focus on footage of the vehicle so that we can accurately relay that to the authorities.
The vehicle is upside down. I repeat, it is upside down. I'm at the rear of the vehicle now, working my way around towards the driver's side. Over.
10-4. I read you loud and clear.
I'm approaching the driver's side window, trying to get a look inside. Cannot positively identify anybody inside yet. I'm looking at the back now.
10-4. Take your time. Be safe.
I see a pair of shoes in the back. I'm moving my way towards the back window.
10-4. I read you loud and clear.
I just confirm there are human remains in the vehicle. Over.
10-4.
The passenger window is broken out, it appears.
rear driver's side window is halfway down.
Copy that. Rear driver's side window is down.
Find the line and turn top side.
Yep. That's what we do it for, brother. Good job. Good job. It's positive, you know? All right.
She's in the back of the vehicle.
Okay.
She's not in the driver's seat. It looks suspicious to me.
Yeah.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I just get emotional watching that, and I got to start with you, Doug. What was your thoughts there as that was going down? And I assume obviously all of that was done live. There was nothing, there was nothing staged here. There was nothing. This is how it went down. What was your thoughts? What was going through your mind? We see Nick come up here, emotional. Just take the audience through what what was going through your mind at that time.
This is like I told Nick as soon as he came up, and he's going through those mental progressions in his head, processing it. Some of my first words were to him to just keep him remain focused on this is why we do what we do. It's positive. As tragic as what we're dealing with, I always keep the crew focused on, what in its entirety are we doing, and that's providing answers for a family. And that's my main focus the whole time. And obviously to be as respectful and professional as possible. We have to work with law enforcement all over the country. And this is turning into something that is helping so many people. So, making sure that we're doing it correctly as much as we can. Now, obviously, some people don't agree with us doing this on YouTube, but this is how we do what we do. We're not backed by states and governments with, multi-million and in some instances $billion funding. We're working with a shoestring budget, and, sharing these stories helps us allow us to help another family. So that's all those things are on my mind while this is happening, to make sure that what we do is as good as we can do it every step of the way, and just remaining laser focused.
And I know I could speak for the panel here, and I'm going to go right over to Paul after I say this. You handled that like a true leader. And I'm not saying it to stroke you, because if you didn't, I would tell you didn't, but you did. So kudos to you for keeping calm, cool, and collective. You stayed focused. You kept your lead. You were the lead there. I'm assuming you're the team leader. You kept your team focused. And Paul, as a CO, the commanding officer of the NYPD Scuba team, I want to get your take on what we just watched.
Well, it's very upsetting, but they brought it home, and that's the end game. That's what they needed to do, and it's unfortunate that Nick had to endure that, because he's going to remember that for a very long time. It's very upsetting, but you live with the fact that you're bringing it home to the family, and it's a great job. I'm just the way Doug handled it when he told everybody turn your phones off. That was huge, because it leaks. I mean, I've had scenarios where we recover a body, and on our radio, we say, okay, we think we got him, and they turn around, and now all of a sudden the press is calling my cell phone before we even pull the poor victim out of the water.
Yeah.
So that's the way you handled that. That was well done, the way you handled that.
Thank you.
Quiet, not tell anybody.
Yeah, that was
like wildfire.
That was a big focus of mine as soon as that happened, because the climate in this area at the time, you got to think 18 agencies and 19,000 man hours were put in on this lake, and things were very, very hot in this area, and the last thing that I wanted was an unnecessary leak and or word getting back to the family unnecessarily. Say, for instance, this was not the car we were looking for, or vice versa. You know, there's a process that this has to go through once that happens, and you know, I just didn't want to leave any open doors to for anything like that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to say, it made me feel like when we used to do our search warrants and we wouldn't even let patrol or anybody know anything that we did. And we would go radio silent. We would, you know, nobody would be able to speak about it. And what Doug exhibited there was, I don't know, you know, where that came in or how he got that you know, wherewithal. It was just such a smart thing to do, telling everybody shut your phones down and nobody says anything. That is a way to keep this in-house within your small little realm of 5 or 6. I think you were with 6 people there. So that was the way to cut it off. Ed, your thoughts?
No, absolutely home run there, Doug. You guys did great work. I loved how you dropped the magnetic line down and latched on to what you were seeing on your screen. Awesome. You know, then the dive and the search around the vehicle, gave me a perspective on positions of windows and what was open, what was closed, and so forth. And so, I mean, that leads to a whole lot of forensic questions on my part that I would be working on forensically now, because those windows are open. There is fish in that lake. And so, you know, the fish can do some damage in there to our crime scene. And there was like fingerprints and DNA. All that stuff is still viable here. Did you guys note anything in terms of position of the gear shift or anything like that? Did you note if this was a key start engine or just a push start with a fob?
Yeah, we you know, we did so in doing a lot of these all over the country. What comes next is us having to work with law enforcement, you know, and the briefings that come on land right after this, you know, the answers that need to be known by those representatives when they show up. And I do a really good job of making sure that we have those answers and we don't look unprepared or like we're not legitimate. So when I have captains and chiefs and all that stuff on scene, they have those answers, you know, the gear shift, you know, the windows up or down, the position of the vehicle. Those are all critical pieces of information that we always need after we have one of these discoveries. So that's why I was on to Nick about, you know, focus on the assessment of the vehicle, conditions of the vehicle, and so forth. As far as the exact particulars, unfortunately, I can't get into those because it's the FBI is still investigating it. And
no, don't.
Yeah,
but the fact that you went when you search, you documented those things and you were able to give that to law enforcement.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That's critical, as you know. You guys need that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And on this channel, we would never, you know, obviously ask you for those questions. I know that others have, you know, not purposely, but unbeknownst, they just figure like, let me ask. We're not going to ask you any of that, Nick. I mean, Doug and Nick, you know, any of you guys, Jared, in my conversations with him, that's the furthest thing that we are interested in. But I want to full circle back before I forget, because I'm kind of old. The wheels. I got to show this now.
Yeah.
Let's get a little bit into this. Where is anybody seeing wheels?
Okay, so stop it right there. So what you're seeing right there, that's a Garmin live scope technology. Typically this is hard mounted to a boat, but because we understand how to manipulate it, I have it on a sort of a swivel stick so that I can take it and shine it like a flashlight per se. See my hand there on it? I'm moving it to get different angles. So if you see the bottom there, if you look at the charts, right around 11 feet, and then you have the object in the middle of your screen there, that's the car. Yeah, right there. That's the car you're looking at. And if you look on the top of the car, what I'm watching for when I move this like a flashlight is to get just different highlights of that object. And you can see a round wheel on the top as I do it. Can't see it there.
It's actually when it moves. It's actually when it moves.
So that's a wheel right there. Yes.
Yes.
Right there where you're
now
at.
I see it. Now,
but when you go through it, it's a lot more prominent as you're moving as well.
Right.
You can see the rear wheels.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
Right. You see the raised above the body of the car, the undercarriage. Yeah. And Which way was the front of the vehicle pointed? Was it pointed back towards the shore where it may be entered, or out towards the lake?
I believe it was pointed out towards the lake.
Uh-huh.
All right. Yeah, because that was a sticking point amongst most of the internet sleuths that are watching. And I watched people argue on Twitter over that part about seeing where's the wheels. What is this guy talking about?
So we've organically taught ourselves how to use sonar. This isn't there's no national school for this, and we look for cars almost every day, and that's really what it comes down to. From us coming in and finding her in 35 minutes and them unable to, unfortunately, law enforcement as a whole, especially in this rural area, they may have to look for a car once a year, twice a year. And even then, I mean, there's never enough time to really know what it is that you're seeing. Whereas though we've discovered over 500 vehicles across the nation underwater, and we do this so much more. So it's not a necessarily, it's not a knock on law enforcement. It's a gray area is what it is.
Doug nailed it.
Doug, correct me if I'm wrong. Adventures with Purpose started out with cleaning up doing the environmental cleanup, getting cars out of, right?
Yep. That's how Jared and I teamed up. I was operating a towing company here in Portland. I got into my office one day. I received an email from a local diver expressing and explaining his mission to clean up rivers. And long story short, he discovered a vehicle underwater in Portland. And at the times, he didn't have a lot of means or resources to be able to do this. No one would help him, not even the authorities here locally. So he was like, "Can you volunteer your time?" And I was like, "Absolutely. I want to be a part of this. I'll send one of my guys. We'll be out there. We'll pull that car out." That one car quickly turned into, a ton of cars here we were pulling out. I mean, to date, we've pulled out 54 cars out of the city of Portland. Wow. And, and in doing this, we're using fish finders, they're really good fish finders, cutting edge sonar for the common person. And we're not understanding what we're teaching ourselves. And we're starting to run into human remains in these vehicles that we're pulling out. And at the time of filming it, the channel grew from, several thousand followers to tens of thousands of followers to hundreds of thousands of followers, because we're doing good things. People like to see that, and they're supporting it. And the next thing we knew, here it is, 2 years fast forward, we're focusing on cold cases where people are missing with cars. And it's
each year, I'm an avid boater. I own 2 boats, and each year the Garmin technology is getting better and better. And my fish finder is unbelievable. Okay. And it has GPS in it and all these bells and whistles, and I can mark and target my locations where I want to go fishing. It's just tremendous technology. But to get back what you said earlier, there's no knock on law enforcement, what you were saying. Listen, no amount of academic book knowledge is going to ever beat your field experience. And the more you do it, the better you become at it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. And that's just what you were saying earlier. They those small jurisdictions don't do this as much as you do it. Okay.
Doug really nailed it. It's a repetition. He's done it so many times. When you're new at this sonar stuff, to read, like all of your viewers are saying, they couldn't see the wheels. I saw the wheels. When you played that video, I knew what it was. I saw that it was a car upside down. But that's because I've done it for so long and been trained on it, and I've done it hundreds of times, thousands of times. So that's my opinion, is a huge reason why they missed it. Again, I would never knock law enforcement. I am law enforcement. So it was a huge area that they had to search. When you don't have a person saying the car went in here or the person went in here, you have to search the whole area. I mean, you use your best, your educated, decision. You pick where you think it might have went in, and you start your search from there, and you move out. Like I said earlier, side scan sonar, but I was using it 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So
that's what I wanted to ask you, Sarge, is that, her last known ping was at that lake.
Right.
That's no secret. That is a fact. It's been out there. The law enforcement locally spoke about it. They had press conferences, and I think Doug and his team, they were led. And in the earlier part of this video, there was an interview with a roadside assistance guy. I'm not going to get into that right at this point, but there was in this video, it brought them to the Boca Lake, and I want to ask you straight out, and you don't have to answer it, Doug, if you don't want to, or if you can't. Was that what led you guys and your team to start there first, the interview with this Nick young man, or is that something you can't talk about?
Oh no, absolutely, we can talk about it. So yes, 100%. The interview with Nick, and also some other developments that led to. We coming into it. This is a fresh case. Like I said, 18 agencies had searched this lake, as well as 19,000 man hours. There's a lot of work put into this lake, and in speaking with the authorities there prior to coming in, and once we got there, and then getting this new information, I felt as though, for one, I would use our resource in the best capacity we could, which is give them the benefit of the doubt that lake is clear, and let's try to apply our resource in a manner that this case hasn't seen yet in another area, which made sense. There's so much that we did not show in our episode because we had to keep it cut out.
Right.
But man, it made so much sense. We were all, as a team. This wasn't a me decision. It wasn't a Nick decision. As a team, we decided this was the best course of action to take. And we also knew that if we start at Prosser and we didn't find anything, this was an area we would have to clear anyway. So let's just think out of the box and do something different that hasn't been applied. So we did that. We ruled it out the first day in a couple other bodies of water. And then we went back to square one like we normally would, which is, where was she last seen? What is the X factor? Her cell phone was the X factor. So let's go off of that. Let's go back and start our day 2 right at square one. And, just a little bit over a half hour later, we located her vehicle.
Excellent. And Doug, did you have unlimited time? Did you go in there with some type of constraint? Like, okay, we only have the weekend. We only have 5 days. We only have 3 days. Was there any limitations on you and your team? Or were you there like, hey, we're going to get her done if it takes a week, if it takes 12 days?
Yes, absolutely. That was our attitude. Typically a 5-mile radius works for us in our cases. And that's in a pretty like a city environment where it's congested. 5 miles of radius. Typically, when we find somebody there within that 5 miles, we're in a rural area. We're halfway between Reno and Lake Tahoe. So this is a 5 mile isn't really going to cut it. So I set up a 10-mile radius, which included Prosser, where she disappeared, where according to law enforcement was her last known location. And we have a couple miles up the road, we had Boca, Stampede, and Independence. Those are 4 big reservoirs. And also the ponds and the lake that were in Truckee right down the road where she was from. So I was fully prepared to take as much time as it took to rule out all those areas, as long as it took.
Yeah.
Were all those bodies of water similar in nature in terms of its clarity, depth, and so forth?
Yeah. So we're the reservoirs were pretty similar. I mean, some were bigger than others, but you have these big slopes that you can pull a car onto at almost 90% of the shoreline. And while we were out there that weekend, there's cars everywhere on these shorelines. So we knew that there wasn't, we just need to check this boat ramp. We knew that we had to check every inch of the shoreline, and we're casting, at different times, 100, 125 feet in either direction. So
the area where you believe the vehicle went in, was there a steep drop off?
Not really. No.
It was gradual.
For this reservoir, it was a standard shoreline there.
Okay.
Not like what you're seeing right there. It was a gradual drop off. Nothing devastating. That would definitely indicate a horrible accident.
And the depth was confirmed at 14 feet.
Yeah. So in our episode, depending on how you're scanning it and which direction you scan it from, it'll show multiple different depths.
Right.
but it's the bottom of the lake there, the reservoir was about 14 feet. Right there, sometimes the vehicle was hitting at like 10 feet, but those are just different angles, different
the
size
vehicle.
of the vehicle,
Yeah.
and so forth.
Yeah, we're looking at an overview here, and this is the location, I believe, straight out. I put my
Yeah, so it's about halfway between the end of that point and where that boat is.
so somewhere around here.
Yep.
This is right around that mark.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, I wanted to ask the sergeant because a lot of people are questioning technology here, right? The technology has come up, Sarge, quite a bit. Does the NYPD and some of these larger departments, like LA, LAPD, some of the more heavily funded departments, do they have this side scanning sonar? You talked about that you've used it. Does the NYPD have that?
Yeah, we have it, and they're constantly updating it. I don't know what they have now since I've been out, but they're constantly updating it, and the technology has gone through the roof, I'm sure. I do have to say something as far as the PD dive team that was looking for this victim. They may not have had any technology. They may have had an ROV, but they may not have had side scan sonar. They may not have had.
The captain that we played in the beginning of this program, he said that they used it. Doug,
He said they use an ROV. An ROV is different than side scan sonar.
So in this particular case with that search, because they publicly said so, and other ones that you didn't just show there, they did have several agencies out there with side scan.
Okay.
And they had ROVs. They had multiple dive teams as well.
Yeah, I recall hearing it in a presser. I definitely
did. I must have missed it. I thought it was just an ROV.
Yeah, and in their, in their defense too, we're talking about a rural community. Yes, this is California, but we're talking about 18 agencies converging, working together on the drop of a dime. So it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be things to be learned from these scenarios. And these things that are learned are going to help future investigations and future searches. But I can tell you right now, they understand fully well what transpired and how to learn from it. 2 days later, as hostile of this situation that this was for them to combat, as you can imagine, us coming in and finding what they couldn't find, that's in a respectful way, that's an embarrassment. But I can tell you that 2 days later, despite that, they were humble. They reached out to me and they said, Doug, we need to meet with you. We all want to see what you did, how we can learn from you, put our heads together to make sure that not only do we take something positive away from this, but also that we're able to turn these mistakes that we think we maybe made into solutions in the future. And it was a very extremely productive meeting for both of us. And I mean, that says a lot about them in such a heated climate there. That's not something that's easy to combat. And you could see them, like, they, even in that presser there, that's tough to do. That's really tough to do. And
that's encouraging to hear. That's encouraging for civilians to hear that
they always want to learn.
Yeah, they were open.
Well, that's professionalism.
Yes, 100%.
You did an after-action report. You found some problems, and now you want to fix it.
Yeah,
and that's the way it needs to be.
Yeah, and we're not talking about things probably would have been cleaner had there been less people there, but everybody was there for the same reason, and it was to find her. The agents told me that before I even arrived, and they were like, Doug, if you can come and find her, and you find her in Prosser, it's going to kill our egos, but we just want her found. We just want her found. But we don't care how that's done. We all have the same goal. So if you're going to come and help and you can find her, please, you couldn't be here quick enough. Yeah. And that's just the way it is.
And Doug, you said it really well. Too many chiefs leading the charge sometimes can be counterproductive. And retired Sergeant Paul Reynolds, he knows that better than anybody, because when we have these huge details, right now you have the West Indian Day Parade in New York City going on in Manhattan, in Brooklyn, and that is the biggest cluster. I used the F word. I had to bleep it out. Biggest cluster, because there's so many bosses on scene telling people, go here, go there, move personnel over here, do this, do that. One is not speaking to the other. And you could have a potential for that in cases like this, because the urgency is tremendous because of community pressure. The family wants answers. They got a 16-year-old daughter that's just vanished off the face of the earth. Everybody wants to be the hero and find her, or find out what happened to her. And you have people doing things and running all over the place. And sometimes, I'm not saying that was the case here, but it had the potential for chaos to happen.
Well, it would certainly add to the confusion doing a search. When you do a search and you're looking for one victim in one location, you have one organization run it and systematically search that prime area.
Right.
That's the way you isolate an area and you deem it cleared, empty, and then move on to the next area. When you have multiple agencies, we've had this happen quite a few times. We would have a submersion, and our emergency service unit would be diving in one location, like maybe 50 feet away, and then the fire department would be diving 100 feet in the other direction, and my scuba team guys are diving right in the middle. You still have areas that'll overlap. And once time passes and we need to recover the body, if in fact it is a recovery, we would take over completely and just systematically cover the entire area by ourselves. This is how it's done. And that would have been a contributing factor to these guys missing it, unfortunately.
I want to go to you, Doug, quickly, because I know you got limited time. I know you're a family man, and I wasn't far off by saying behind every good man is a good woman, right? You wouldn't argue with me on that one. I don't want to keep you away from the missus. I know.
No, not at all. Look, all of my success has to do with my wife and my daughters. If it wasn't for their support, I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be in the position I'm in. And my wife 100% dictates everything that I do because of the power she puts behind me. 1,000%, man.
Yeah. Amen.
When you guys went at this and you had those 3 or 4 locations, maybe there might have been more that you had on your radar to search, what was your game plan? Nick, you go this way, I'll go this way? Or did you have like a TAC meeting where you sat down and said, okay, safety first, obviously that comes first and foremost. I heard you tell him, be safe, right? That was a great thing. I loved hearing that. Do you guys have, those sleepless nights the night before where you're sitting in the camper in your RV and you're like, man, but talk to the audience, because a lot of people want to know about that. How do you guys go about this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that the public never gets a chance to see because it falls on the editing room floor and so forth. But we're always every step of the way. Every case we learn. Every case is different. Every search is different. So everything that we do is a constant learning experience, and we are really, really focused and honed in on adapting and innovating every step of the way. If we take the time to identify dangers in what we're doing, we do it. Obviously, a lot of the things that make us successful is because, we don't have red tape and we can push a lot of limits that others don't really feel comfortable with pushing. So, we do that a lot. So we have to take our time to identify the risks and the dangers and how can we safely mitigate them as best as we can, because we got to push those limits. If we want the answers, and not to sound arrogant, but if we really want to do something that hasn't been done, we got to do what it takes, that hasn't been put in already on that. Right. So, we're really, really focused on, identifying the dangers and talking it out. And is there a better way we can do this? Are we doing it correctly? And so forth. Communication is key on any level. Communication is one of the most important aspects when we're out there, and there's absolutely no shortage of it.
Yeah. Ed, do you have any questions in regards, or any of my panel here? Any of you guys, maybe Paul, questions in regards to the location where Kiely Rodni was found, all the way into the rear? And I mention this because, again, our men and women at our home that have nothing to do with law enforcement, that have nothing to do with the dive and the physics part of how things happen. Do you guys have any questions for maybe Doug that he can or maybe can't answer?
No, my questions are going to come from the autopsy. So I'm just going to leave that as that. But great job, Doug. Great job to you and your team. And I hope all of our subscribers here and our fans and our family here in the True Crime family come and join you guys and support you as well.
Oh yeah, everybody. Everybody. Linked in the description here, and we're not ending this by any means because we still got another 15 minutes. But linked in the description is adventureswithpurpose.com. It's their YouTube channel. I know if you're not yet subscribed to them, you will go over there and ring that subscribe button and that bell. It's free to do it. Watching their videos, thumbing them up, sharing them out there, you're supporting. For those of you who are on a fixed budget, because there's many of us out there that cannot contribute. You're having a hard time making ends meet. Listen, gas prices are up, everything is up. But if you just simply watch their videos, let their ads play, engage with them, give them a thumbs up and speak to them, you are contributing without going into your purse, without going into your pocketbook, without opening your wallet. It is a free way to support people who are doing God's work. Doug, his team, Nick. I mean, I'd love to eventually get Nick to come on here with us. Jared, and everybody behind the scenes, the men, women, the wives, the daughters, everybody who's behind the scenes supporting these guys to do this job. Let's get in there and let's give them strength and positive vibes. Andrea O says, Doug, you speak such professionalism, respect, integrity, and class. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. Paul, again, the experience that you have is tremendous on a professional level. You got paid to do the job that you did for 26 years in the NYPD. Ed Wallace and I both, protect and serve the public. Again, you're not relying on mutual aid from outside resources because of the sheer size and resources that you have from within. Can you talk a little bit about how we lend resources to New York, upstate New York, New Jersey? I have had retired helicopter aviation guys from the aviation unit talk about rescuing West Point cadets that were on the side of a mountain at one point, plane crashes, natural disasters. Do you want to talk a little bit about what NYPD does in mutual aid for the surrounding tri-state area?
We've assisted many different agencies in different types of searches. For instance, upstate, I can't remember the town. We had to locate a hard drive for, it was in a terrorism case. It was in a stream with extremely fast current, swift water. So we had to do that. We did stuff for Yonkers, looking for a victim. We also do a lot of training. We did a lot of training with other municipalities who would ask us, how do you do these searches? Can you show us how to do these searches?
Yeah.
And we would be more than happy to help them and show them different types of search patterns we would use. Most of our stuff was simply with a line and two grappling hooks. It's called a pattern line search.
Right.
And you lay in the mud and you systematically search the bottom, which basically with your eyes closed, because you had zero visibility anyway.
Right.
Some high profile stuff. When Sully Flight 1549 went in the water, one of the engines got torn off, and the FAA wanted us to find it. So we searched for it for 3 days in conjunction with FDNY, Army Corps of Engineers, Jersey State Troopers, all using side scan sonar and different other apparatus
to find that engine. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Hey, Doug, I wanted to ask you too, now that Sarge is talking about that, prior to finding Kiely Rodni, you guys went and trained the FBI. You want to talk a little bit about that?
We did have a very in-depth meeting of sorts with them. I can't like get into particulars, but I can tell you that they were very, very amazed with what we've been able to do. Obviously, it's intelligence that they're after. So it's how do you do? What do you do? What are your reasonings? The tactics, and what are you doing differently? And and speaking to some of the analysts there, there's a lot of things that were never considered for, in some areas that the information that we gave to them it's critical. It's like it's all communication, like I said before. And any time that we can come together and help spread awareness for what we do, or talk to an agency or so forth. I was invited down by the Attorney General of Arkansas, Rutledge. She had me come down and hold a training symposium for the entire state there, and that went amazing. It was a great presentation, and there's a lot of people that are curious. It's all in the results. Mm-hmm. And again, not to sound arrogant, but we've produced a lot of results, and there's a lot of eyes that are on us, and there's a lot of curious minds that want to digest that and take that in and learn from it, as they should. If people aren't reaching out to us, I think that would be a problem. But the fact that they are, shows where we're going, the level of what it is that we're doing. And, we're at the end of the day, respect is earned. It wasn't always like this. In the beginning, things were really hard for Jared. Who are you? And, there's egos involved. And I can tell you that now, wherever we go, everybody's reaching out to us like, hey, man, we really like what you're doing. You're an inspiration to us. And these are departments that are telling us this. And that's pretty big. It means a lot to us. I know it's an honor for me to be in this position to do this, and it's great. It's great, and we're using a social media platform to help fund it. That we're a vessel of the community. So I think that's the most beautiful part about it.
I just want to say, hey, folks, what Doug does and what Sergeant Reynolds did and his team. Not everybody can do this. Okay, this is a dangerous, dirty job. Yeah, everybody's seen people scuba dive before, but scuba diving under these conditions are very difficult, and it's unforgiving. And one mistake could cost you your life, especially in some of the waters here around New York City. You can't see your hand in front of your face. Okay, visibility is near impossible. And Sarge, jump in anytime if I'm out of line or something. But there's so much debris and garbage in these waters. You could get hit by anything that's underneath there, floating around in the currents.
Yeah, you're completely correct. It's zero visibility most of the time. Deploying out of the helicopter, we had a couple guys break their backs. They landed on pilings when they jumped into the water. So injuries were quite frequent. But the team itself was a pretty elite level of guys. It was a very hard physical to get on the team. You had to pass a tough physical, an interview process, and a written. And then you were trained how to be a police diver. The physical was about an 80 to 85% failure rate. Wow. Just about everybody failed. So, but everybody on that team passed it, which gave a lot of camaraderie. And you had a lot of military guys, Force Recon Marines, Coast Guard rescue swimmers, that type of guy you'd see in this team. And they were great to work with. I couldn't work with any better. I mean, it was fantastic. Yeah. And the work that Doug is doing now is just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, Doug, you're a class act. And if there's ever anything I can do to help you out, you just let me know. I'd be more than happy.
Thank you. I really appreciate the respect. It means a lot. You guys are very distinguished, and trust me, it doesn't fall on deaf ears, man. It means a lot.
Doug and Paul, if it's okay, I will exchange. I have Doug's number. I'll send him yours, Paul. I'll get Ed's to him, and he's already got mine. Doug, I cherry picked a couple of questions, if you don't mind, and then I know you got to run.
No, take your time. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, because so many of them came in, but I just wrote a couple quick. So Gojo sends in a question directly to you, and she says, with respect, this question is asked with respect. Why did only one of your AWP divers go down to film? Did the police divers also go down with you? And did they I know you might not be able to answer this one. Did the police divers, after you guys made the recovery, did you go back down with them? And did they remove anything, or did you guys notice anything fall out into the lake bed? This is a good question, Gojo. Thank you for that. Doug, whatever you can or can't answer.
Yeah. So it typically for us in such, that was extremely shallow waters, and that was rare for us to have that visibility. Like Paul was saying, it's typically what we're finding stuff in that you can't see in, or it would have been found already. So us diving with multiple guys on one dive, especially in a situation like that where it was very shallow, no current, great visibility. We didn't have two guys in the water, so it was just Nick. I stayed up topside on comms with him. For what it is we're capable of, that was very easy for us to do. Afterwards, once we did our assessment, we brought the authorities in on scene. The FBI then took over, and they were very, very thorough about what it is, every step of the way, as you can imagine. So their divers came in, they took over. There was multiple divers in the water every step of the way, and they did a great job with what they did.
And it looks to be tremendous visibility there. I have it back up on the screen. And I mean, again, as you and Ed and Paul has said, most of the time you don't have optimal conditions like this. Was that water cold? Was it warm?
It's about 80 degrees.
So it's like a sauna.
Yeah. So that's another thing we're never used to. We're used to being in really, really cold water all the time. So that was a definitely a first for us. And every case is a first for us. It's different circumstances, different areas, different terrain, and everything about every case is completely different.
Right. And then you have different suits for different environments.
Yep. And I've done all my diving in a dry suit. I wear a dry suit all the time. It's just something I'm accustomed to. And most of the year I'm in really cold water anyway. So I don't do too much switching out of my suits. And, as far as visibility, that's why we use those great big magnets, those 2,600 pound magnets, where I think I may have a car that's 90%, for my knowledge, is a car. When I put that magnet on it, the magnet doesn't lie.
That's right.
What that does is it gives us a line straight to the surface. I'll tie it to a buoy, and then as divers, we're diving down the line directly on the target. And most of the time we can't see, so it's all by feel, coming down the line. And you get onto the car, you orient yourself. Okay, this is the driver's side, this is the rear, this is the front. And it's almost as though, theoretically, with my eyes closed, my hands work better. I can feel a lot better. It's really hard to explain.
Right.
But I can tell you, it's really creepy having your eyes open, looking at chocolate milk, and then seeing stuff come in front of your mask. So if there's zero viz like that, my eyes are closed anyway. I'm just focused on the car and all right.
And going by feel. Yeah.
Now originally you thought it might have been a boat. Now, had it been a boat, the magnet wouldn't have stuck to it, because most boats in that water is going to be fiberglass.
Right. And in that first scan there on side scan, when I captured it underneath the bottom of the boat, it did appear as though it could have been a boat. But that's why, when we find these targets, we start working on our angles. And another reason why we use the small craft that we use, it allows us to manipulate the way a larger craft can't.
Right.
What I just said touches on partially why the vehicle wasn't discovered in the first place. Our smaller crafts, they can get in tight to the shore, and we can manipulate a scan the way that larger crafts don't have the ability to do.
Right.
So
and make tighter turns. All these things. Awesome stuff. Awesome.
Hey, I want to take a little pressure off of Nick and put this on the guy who used to get paid the big bucks, the sergeant. Sarge, in a condition like this, right? You got a vehicle in a fresh body of water, right? Fresh water. It's not salt water. It's in warm water, right? She obviously wasn't belted in because she was recovered towards the back hatch. Can you talk about, as a professional in the diving field, why maybe she was, and I'm trying to take this off of Doug because everyone's been asking him this, and I'm trying to cut him some slack. What's your professional thoughts on why she was in that back area? What could be some of the potentials? Is it physics? Is there a science to this? People want to know.
Well, quite often what happens when cars go in the water, and this doesn't happen every time, it just sometimes the engine compartment is heavier, it tends to lean forward, and then that causes the car to start to fill, and it'll flip over. That's why it ended up on the top. But while that's happening, people, if they're awake, panic, and they try to climb to the highest point of the car as it's flipping over, which would be the back window. And that's why you recover people in the back of the car quite often.
Because they're going to the area where there's no water.
Trying to escape. Yeah, they're trying to escape.
I have a video.
I don't know if that's the case. I have no idea. I don't know any particulars.
I have a video that depicts this. I'm not going to play it because I don't want to give people PTSD or nightmares to be given to people. But essentially, you could just picture it. You know, the front nose dives, and then it starts to consume the compartment with water. People are now going, sort of just think about the Titanic. People are going to the other area. In this case, it could be what happened, but we don't know. Nobody knows, and we will only know upon completion of
the autopsy.
Yeah, the cause and
cars fill up pretty fast, and we in order to fly in a helicopter for NYPD, you had to go to egress training, where you're put in a helicopter, a mock helicopter, and it's submerged. You're strapped in, and it's submerged underwater, and it's submerged quite quickly. It's got a hollow floor. It comes up that fast, the water, and you just take a breath, and then the whole helicopter flips over, and then you have to unclip and escape out a window. Now, we're seasoned professionals, and it was terrifying for us. So you can imagine a person, anybody that goes in a car into the water, you panic and you lose all sense of reality. And when you panic, that's when bad things happen.
That's right. And they're not trained. They're not trained.
No, this is just...
You know, look where your bubbles are going, all these different tricks. Yeah, if you can see them. Right. Yeah.
Sarge, let me ask you, and Doug, I'm sorry. I'm trying to take some of the weight off of you here with this. Sarge, when you, as law enforcement professional, comes onto the scene and takes this thing out, takes the car out of the, we watched it. I'm not going to play that. Everybody plays it over and over again. We see it unfold. They drag it out. It's coming out from the rear. The back end of the vehicle is coming out of the water. Do your divers go back in there and do a magnet sweep or some type of sweep at the bottom of that floor? People want to know. This is not my question that I'm asking you. This is user generated stuff. What do they do to ensure that everything and anything, i.e. a gun, a knife, a machete, anything, do they sweep the bottom of that floor or not?
It depends. It depends on the situation and the location.
In this case, would you?
If there's something that we're looking for, we would. If we had information that there may have been something that law enforcement needed, we would look for it. Yeah. In those conditions, it would be easy to look for something.
All right.
Yeah, no brainer.
He's not letting you off the hook, Doug, and I'm going to let Ed take it. Doug, did you see any of that?
Doug?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you see any of that?
Yes, I did. There was some worry about that. And anytime you're doing an underwater vehicle forensics removal, and there's windows that have been compromised, that should be one of the most direct focus points on that recovery. From what I witnessed, it was, and they did a really good job with what they did.
And you stayed and watched the whole thing, right?
Oh yeah. We were there every step of the way. And like I said, the FBI it took over Placer County Sheriff's Department, Nevada County. At that point, they were extremely focused on what that was the missing link to their investigation. And anytime you have a missing person go missing and like nothing to go off of, and there's a vehicle involved, that next step in that investigation is the vehicle. The vehicle is going to turn up, evidence inside of it. It's possibly going to tie you to a suspect, if not the victim or the person you're looking for. So they had that, and they were lasered focused once they had that, and they did a really good job.
I would say from a forensic standpoint, if I was on scene and I was advising, if they weren't going to do a forensic underwater recovery of any of the loose objects that could be lost because of the compromised windows, I would want those windows wrapped.
Yes.
To keep things inside the vehicle, especially when they were going to flip the vehicle over and ride it to pull it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're considering, any recovery of a vehicle. And this is my expertise because I've done it my whole life in the towing industry. You can never account for everything during a recovery, no matter where it is, on land or underwater. Especially underwater. Underwater, you're adding risk factors to your recovery that you can't account for, different buoyancies and all so forth. So you gotta be very careful during these recoveries. It's really, really meticulous how you got to go about it, especially when you're talking about protecting the integrity of what's inside of that vehicle. That's one of the most critical aspects of this. Thankfully, we're not working with a huge current that immediately is gonna. You'll never find anything that comes out of the vehicle. Almost, it's almost impossible. Where there was no current there, really good visibility. There's things that I could pick apart about it, but they did a good job.
How far away was your guy filming this? I'm sorry, Ed. I got to get this out there.
We're right on the shore, right next to him, right there the whole time.
This angle right here, it looks like it's inside the water.
Well, this is just right on the shoreline. So there's a little curve there to the right of the screen, and then there's just an adjacent shoreline right there. So It's basically right there out on the water's ledge.
And that's the FBI diver coming out with the car?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's another one too that's in the water. You can't see right here on camera.
And again,
there's a news station there locally that live streamed the entire thing.
I have it. It was from the helicopter, right?
There's a couple. The helicopter as well as the shore off there to the southwest was full of about 20 media stations that were there from Sacramento, Reno, Lake Tahoe, that were all filming the entire thing.
Hey Doug, can I ask you? And again, I hate to put you in the position, but I don't think it's that bad. The side view mirror that was on the roll from down below, because when Nick was down there, it didn't seem like it was damaged. Do you think that happened? And how did that driver's side window either get broken out or is down?
Those are things you'll have to watch the video on. Those, you can clearly see it. Some of those things, all those answers are in the episode.
Okay.
You want those answers? Anybody watching this, watch the episode. They're there. Definitely.
Yes,
there.
They were there. Okay.
I'm just asking the questions. I know the answers to them.
But if I was there and this was my crime scene, and I would say to my sergeant there, Sarge, can you send your people back down there now and look around, do a line pattern search?
Definitely go.
Yeah,
definitely go.
Because
since we're talking about it, most of the jurisdictions that we work with when we make these discoveries, they elect to use us to do these recoveries because they respect our resource and experience and just dealing with vehicles in a sense. Had that been me, for one, I would have sealed the windows, if not taken the time to extract all the evidence out prior to even touching the vehicle. If I would not have done that, would seal the windows, and you don't roll a vehicle over underwater that doesn't need to be rolled over. Do that on land. Seal the windows, pull the vehicle up, and containing evidence is the number one key in this situation.
Amen.
Did they make things more difficult for themselves on this? Yeah, but from what I saw and the measures that they went to do the recovery afterwards was, they did a good job.
My distinguished panel here, obviously Doug included. Sarge, do you concur with what Doug just said?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
It's about eliminating risks is all it is. Especially
Well,
when you have a crime scene. How do we contain
it's a little
this?
different. It was a little different in New York because of the conditions.
Right.
We would rig a car as it is and take it out as any means possible.
This is pretty controlled right here.
Right. That's pretty controlled. So they could have, apples not. They did it. They did it that way.
Right. They could have towed it out on its roof.
It gets hard. It does get hard. I've seen tow trucks get pulled over. So it does get hard. But
I mean, and we also have the inflation capabilities. Flotation. We have bags that we could have strapped around the vehicle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Doug, I've seen you in Adventures with Purpose. I know I've seen Jarrett utilize those bags that they're talking about, or with like balloon kind of things where they blow it up and have the cars come up. Because I'm an avid watcher. I watch you guys. So that's something that could have been easily done here. And for whatever reason, again, we weren't in control of that investigation. You guys found them. You found her. You found the car. And then you become bystanders at that point. How close did they let you guys get to this operation, or did they make you guys stand outside of the crime scene tape? I'm just curious about that, because not for me, but for the viewing audience, I know people want to know how you were treated after you made that recovery.
We were treated with respect every step of the way.
Awesome.
However, the FBI, once they came in and they took over, they shut down the scene. We were asked to step just to the side there, where we could, still be present. If any questions or anything needed to be asked, but they took that entire region and went over it with a fine-tooth comb, and we were asked to step aside, and obviously, we're civilians at that point. So it's their show. We don't ever come in to cowboy anything. It's not like that. And some will say, "Oh, Doug, you're lying. That's why you put it on YouTube." It's not the case. I mean, we share these stories of what it is that we do, so simply we can help another family. That's it. Because I can tell you right now, if we were out for views and to make this a show, we could have a far different attitudes and make things seem, we could get really ugly with it, but we don't. We don't choose to be that way. We choose to be professional, have integrity with what it is that we do. We understand that we have to work with law enforcement all across the nation, and that's what we want to continue to do.
Yeah, 100%. And I thank you for the professionalism that not only you but the whole team. This is a team effort. This isn't this is not the Doug show. This is the Adventures with Purpose team show, and this is what you guys do together collectively as a team. When we would go out in warrants, in the warrant squad where I worked, we were 5-6 guys deep, and it wasn't just one or two guys who ran the thing. We were all one unit together. Hey, I got a quick question for anybody on the panel here. There's the whole argument about how the wheels were spinning and was the car in gear? Did somebody put it in neutral? Doug, could you shed any light on that? If the vehicle was in neutral, can you talk about that? Can you not talk about it?
My original opinion in this was it was in neutral. And I'm not going off of seeing the gear shift or anything like that, just strictly watching the vehicle being pulled out and the wheels rolling freely. In hindsight, obviously every part of this has been broken down by experts all over the world by now. I guess the correct answer for that is it doesn't matter what gear it's in, anything outside of park, that vehicle will roll freely. That just doesn't really align with what I've been involved with in the towing industry. So I mean, I guess there's room for interpretation there, but to me it definitely looked like there was no resistance on those wheels and they were rolling in reverse freely. We're not talking about being in drive and driving straight.
Right.
And the wheels will roll freely. This is
well, again, that could have been done by the FBI divers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
so many questions. They'll continue to come.
And the wheels being turned once it broke the surface in our episode, the wheels are going to move because the steering column's unlocked. The wheels are going to move on the when it rolled over and during the recovery. So basing anything off of which direction the wheels were at that time is really inaccurate.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was quite informative. We answered quite a bit of questions. I appreciate you taking out the time on Labor Day on Monday. Everybody's usually heading out for barbecues and things of that nature. We're here trying to get out some information on YouTube. I know that you've made many appearances on maybe some other shows, and I saw you guys on the news this morning. I think it was News Nation, not News Nation. What was it? Newsmax. So you have your own YouTube channel too. I would like to plug that too. I think it's just your name, Doug Bishop. No?
Correct.
Yeah. So
all of my focus and efforts though right now are.
That's where I saw it.
You can see that all. You can see that all on Adventures with Purpose. And
okay.
Anybody that's watching this and not subscribed to us, please, it's free. Like we're really good guys trying to do good in the world, and we're 100% community driven, community funded. You know, and we wouldn't be able to do this without the community. We're a vessel of the community. So please, if you're watching this and you are not subscribed to what it is that we're doing, hit that subscribe button, share our stories so that we can help another family.
Amen. Amen to that. And as far as my staff here and the panel that we have, Ed Wallace, myself, we wholeheartedly can and will support you going forward with anything that we can do from the law enforcement perspective. If there's any time that you guys have any questions while in the field or at any given point, you're going to have all of our numbers and by all means reach out. We may or may not be able to answer it, but if we can, we will. You know what I mean? So please continue to do God's work. I want to say thank you to you again. I can't thank you enough. If I had my hat on, which I don't, I'd be tipping the cap to you. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Ed, any final words for Doug?
Yeah, great job, Doug. Keep up the good work, and don't forget your mental health as well. You and your partner. You know, I've been through 15 years in crime scene, all kinds of man's worst actions against man. I've seen it, dismemberments to whatever, you name it. It runs a toll on you. So don't forget that aspect of what you do as well. Take care of yourselves.
Yeah. Thank you for the awesome advice. I really, really appreciate it.
Paul, anything?
Just thank you, Doug. And, if you could donate to Adventures with a Purpose, please do.
Yeah,
It's
all linked down below in the description. I have their website and their YouTube channel. Please go on over there. I am going to give, on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon, a $500 donation to Adventures with Purpose. We're going to pay it forward. It's on behalf of all of you that have given super chats here tonight and the support that you give this great community. We are a learning community. We want you guys to understand. And that's why we asked Doug. I had a little message back and forth with Jared. Happy 27th wedding anniversary to him. He's got to catch up to us. I'm up to 31.
Rookie.
Yeah, Jared texted me. He's like, "Look at me on my 27th wedding anniversary. I'm doing interviews," and we had like this whole little conversation. But I want to send again support from our community. You know, YouTube is sometimes mean streets, right? There's mean streets on YouTube. There's a lot of people who point fingers and go, they'll mother you and mother you and mother you. I don't want that. So here we're going to be paying it forward. Everybody that has been in this interactive live stream, you're going to be supporting Adventures with Purpose. We're going to send them over a $500 donation. So
thank you so much.
Keep on doing what you're doing, brother. You're welcome. And guys and girls, again, I can't overemphasize the importance of getting around this and all of the great search groups. There's so many of them out there, but these guys are giving it to you and showing you. They're teaching you what they do and how they do it. So subscribe. And as I always like to end all of these things, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat. But especially all victims of crime and their families. The Rodni family, they need us now more than ever. Let's send them strength, prayers, and positive vibes, and all of our missing and all of our people who are out there victims of crime.
Amen.
On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon, Adventures with Purpose, Doug, retired NYPD Sergeant Paul Reynolds, and Ed Wallace, good night from New York. We'll see you soon. Peace, guys.
Night.